begin this hour in Washington, where the House Select Committee investigating January 6th will hold its third hearing in just moments.
Today's hearing will focus on what the committee calls former President Trump's pressure campaign to convince then Vice President Mike Pence to overturn the results of the 2020 election. The committee plans to show how Mr. Trump's efforts actually put the vice president's life at risk. Joining us now is CBS News Chief Election and Campaign Correspondent Robert Costa and CBS News Congressional Correspondent Scott MacFarlane. Welcome to you both. Scott, let's start with you. January 6th committee aides have said that there will be 4 sections to today's hearing. Break those down for us.
We're going to hear an awful lot in the second section of this hearing about the threat on the ground that day to Mike Pence. This was a crowd, a mob, many of whom were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," a mob that erected a gallows and noose and got so close to him, both in physical proximity and in time. Inside the Capitol that day, you'll recall a branch of this mob entered the Senate chamber just after Mike Pence is rushed out the back door. One member of the mob put a note on his desk in the Senate saying, "Justice is coming." There's also this group of Proud Boys. We'll hear that name again today, Proud Boys. In court filings previously in the accused Proud Boy conspiracy case, a witness, according to the FBI, told the feds if the Proud Boys got to Mike Pence, they were intent on murdering him. Mike Pence's physical safety is going to be a component of this hearing, but just that, a component. There will also be so much more about the pressure campaign he was under, a different type of threat, a pressure campaign from the upper levels of the Trump administration, including the former president himself.
And it's not just the vice president who'll be in focus. Robert, the Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas's wife, Ginni Thomas, is back in the news cycle as this committee obtained email correspondence between her and lawyer John Eastman, who played a role in this pressure campaign on Pence. How might that play into what we're about to see today?
It's not planned to be a central part of today's hearing on Capitol Hill, but it's certainly a story that's front and center outside of the committee hearing room right now, about an hour before the hearing is scheduled to start. Talking to sources in and around the committee, it's clear they are now moving forward with a possible subpoena for Ms. Thomas, Ginni Thomas, the spouse of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. And here's the backstory in brief. A few months ago, CBS News and the Washington Post jointly reported that Ginni Thomas, in her own independent capacity, but as the spouse of a Supreme Court justice certainly, was in communication with the Trump White House, specifically Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. We revealed those text messages which had been obtained by the committee. Now, months later, last night, the Washington Post first reported that there were emails obtained by the committee between John Eastman, who authored that blueprint for a coup, as many critics have called it, Eastman was corresponding with Ginni Thomas. So now this piling on of information and documents has prompted the chair of the committee, Benny Thompson, to say just a few minutes ago, and Congresswoman Liz Cheney of Wyoming, a Republican, agrees that it's probably time to bring in Ms. Thomas for a conversation.
Wow. And Robert, on another note, Congressman Loudermilk is downplaying the significance of a tour that he gave in the Capitol one day before the riot. The committee released surveillance video of the tour on Wednesday. How has the congressman defended his actions, and could he appear before the committee in some form?
He could. He's been certainly asked to appear before the committee. Congressman Loudermilk has said that he has been the subject of death threats because of the way the committee has proceeded. He's been harshly critical of the committee. I know Scott's done a lot of reporting on this episode of people who are constituents, associates of Loudermilk, coming to the Capitol for a tour on what would end up being the eve of the insurrection. These kind of activities in the days and hours before the attack are of high interest to the committee, trying to understand how this mob not only walked up Pennsylvania Avenue, but had a real sense, it seemed at times, about the building and locations.
It really is incredible when you look at the narrative this committee is stringing together for the public to consume. I mean, to realize that we're discussing a sitting president effectively pressuring a vice president and putting his own life in danger, potentially, is quite remarkable. Scott, how have these hearings played out in public so far?
Well, the timing is what I think the committee is trying to lean into, to rallied the public's attention. The timing on January 6th is everything. The president was making social media posts through the day January 6th as all of this unique, horrific American moment was playing out. The president famously at 2:24 p.m. tweeted about Mike Pence, saying he lacked courage, again questioning the validity of the election. 2:24 p.m. is when this riotous mob was making its move in the Capitol, and there was a surge after 2:24 p.m. They got into the Senate chamber. They tried to break the windows down of the House Speaker's lobby to get into the House chamber. There was the most vicious fighting with police after 2:24 p.m. I'd be surprised if the committee didn't spell out the timing about the risk to Mike Pence at 2:24 p.m. when it leans into its presentation on the danger to Mike Pence after the pressure campaign on Mike Pence.
And can we expect yesterday's hearing, which was cancelled, to be rescheduled? We know there are specific points and an agenda scheduled for Wednesday. What happens to that?
It's my understanding that the hearing on the Justice Department intervention, or the 11th hour attempt to interfere with the Justice Department, does still happen at one of the future dates from this committee. We know they've got 2 hearings on the schedule for next week, Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. We expect them to add more, at least 1 or 2 more hearings the following week. We'll see what the topics are. We expect them to foreshadow that at the end of today's hearing. They've been doing that a lot, kind of teasing ahead to the next event at the end of said event.
All right, so much to watch in the coming hours here. Robert Costa and Scott MacFarlane, thank you both very much.